Right. All right, and you'll have to pop because he's rolling down as well. Let's go one time to the ball side, and then we'll take a.
Welcome back to the NBA Global Camp here in Treviso, Italy. And our second game of the day, Team 1 versus Team 4. These are made up of players who are currently available for the NBA draft as auto-eligible players born in 1996 or early entry players who have put their name in with the idea that they can either stay in or withdraw. Team 1, you can see the names. Keep your eye on Haralampopoulos, the young man from Greece who has been an outstanding junior player, now playing at PAOK up in Saloniki. Trey Bell Haynes, he is a Canadian, and if you're an American college basketball fan, he played at Vermont. And don't forget, Wes Wilcox, who's joining me, Dusan Rizdic, who is from Belgrade, Serbia, and played at Arizona and is here trying to impress NBA and European scouts.
Yeah, no, great game too. Matur Maker as well,
yeah.
Another interesting prospect.
Don Maker's younger brother, who definitely has some NBA interest. And Team 4, coached by Mark Madsen of the Los Angeles Lakers. And a guy to keep your eye on today is Isuf Sanon, who is from Ukraine. Had a terrific under-18 European championship last summer. He now plays in Ljubljana for Olympia, and he's only 19 years old. And again, Wes Wilcox, former general manager of the Atlanta Hawks, is with me, and should be fun.
Yeah, no, Isuf last night, or yesterday afternoon, quite impressive. So it'll be fun to watch a second time.
One of the interesting things about this camp is that the officials here at the NBA Global Camp are G League officials. And like everybody in the G League, trying to earn a spot in the NBA. And we've given you the rosters. We will call the game, but one of the interesting and fun things for us to do here in Treviso is to bring to the broadcast some of the NBA people who have traveled here to Italy. And joining us now from the NBA, former longtime outstanding NBA official Bennett Salvatore. Hope I said that the way you wrote it for me. Okay. We've talked about this being an opportunity for these players to impress NBA scouts, but we have G League officials here, Bennett. And what's the value for the league and for these young officials at a camp like this? Quick basket right away by Team 1. And Melvin Govindi, 7-footer handling the ball for Team 4. What have you noticed about your officials that they've gotten out of this so far, and what's the feedback been from you to them and from them to you?
Well, right now, these are 6 officials that are pretty along their way. They're highly rated G League officials. So right now, it's basically refining their talent and their course demeanor and the things that will just day by day make them better officials. Mechanics, where they run, what they look at, and that's what I do. I look to see what they're looking at, if they're running in the right place, because most of the time, if we can get to the right place on the court, the right position, we have a very good chance of making them good.
You know, we were talking about it between games a little bit, Bennett, about the amount of work that goes in to analyzing and evaluating each play and each call. Maybe you can elaborate that for the fan, you know, because it's really impressive the amount that gets put in to each game and each call.
I don't think anyone understands, other than in-house in the NBA, the accountability that all of these referees are under. Every single thing they do on the court is monitored, from the way they dress to their professionalism, and obviously more on the basketball court. The analytics today play a very big part of it. You know, we chart each referee for their positioning, where they're strong in that position. They might be stronger in the lead than they are in the trail, and we chart all that out, and then we try to give them that information and make them aware of it in hopes that they can improve that. But there is the video work today that is done year-round. This is a 24/7 job now.
No
this
doubt.
is not just a summer gig for these guys or the G League guys.
On the line right now, Alexander Lazic, who plays at KK Mega BMAX, and that's a interesting program because they've had a number of players drafted most recently. They're as you mentioned yesterday, they're a team that their team in the Adriatic League, Wes, they treat that like a development team, and we've seen guys like Jokic and
Luwawu.
Yep, Luwawu, Zubac.
Rade Zagaric, I believe.
Yep.
Memphis draft pick
That's
from
right.
a couple years ago.
Last year, Vlatko Konchar, also out of that program.
Going back to these referees, Bennett, it must be really interesting for you with the breadth of your career and the length of your career to see the change from what it was like early to the analytics and the evaluation that's going into it now. Like, how has this evolved over time?
Well, first of all, I'm from the East Coast, and obviously the office is in the East Coast. If you had a game on the West Coast when I first started my career, they didn't know what happened in the game until 3 days later. You know, today it's instant messaging. We actually did our game reports that were written and put in the mail and mailed to the league office that they got 3 or 4 days later. So that's a big change. Social media obviously is a big change. But for us, the biggest change is the usage of instant replay and being able to gain an advantage of seeing something that we could never review before, that we're now allowed to go to review and hopefully get it right.
Yeah.
Duzon Ridges handling the ball, the 6'11" center from the University of Arizona with the finish at the other end.
After the Euro step.
Yeah.
Pretty good for a big guy.
Well, he should know the Euro
He
step.
should know the Euro step. He should know the Euro step.
But you just brought up a very good point, Fran, and that is you said 6'11". For a lot of our minor league guys, they don't get to officiate players that play above the rim as they would see in the NBA. So this type of venue is terrific for us because all of these guys play above the rim.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a number of 7-footers here at the camp, and they're banging around as well, which is good for them, the officials to
monitor
yeah, that.
Absolutely.
Yep. Young man at the line right now, Jean-Marc Ponsa, who plays at Nanterre. He averaged about 7 minutes a game this year in the French Pro A League. a league, West, we talked about yesterday that has produced a lot of NBA talent in recent times.
It's certainly one of the best leagues out there to correlate with NBA level athleticism.
You start with guys like Boris Diaw, certainly, and Tony Parker, Nick Batum,
Evan Fournier,
Rudy Gobert. Of course, Evan Fournier, Rudy Gobert played in this camp just a few short years ago.
You know, you talk about, Bennett, evaluating the officials. There's also, and we've talked a lot about evaluating players, but this is also a great opportunity for these coaches. You know, the senior executives are being evaluated for potential coaching jobs, be it, you know, head coaching jobs in the future, and it's an opportunity to see Dan Burke, who's been a longtime NBA assistant, be a head coach and watch him coach in a live game. And it's absolutely the case that is also being evaluated by these executives.
It's an educational environment all the way around.
Yes. And
for everybody.
Yep.
And
coaches, officials.
Yeah, no, to that point, Bennett, it wasn't long ago that Kenny Atkinson was here as an assistant, J.B. Bickerstaff. And, Dennis Lindsay coached here before he became an executive. So you're absolutely on target. The coaching talent has been on display here through the years. And I got to think, as an executive, even though this is a summer type of atmosphere, Wes, you're watching a guy who might be a guy that you have in mind someday long-term to be a head coach, and watching his body language, demeanor, how he interacts with players and officials.
Absolutely.
Let's listen into this huddle real quick.
We're into them, and it's making a difference. We need to be more physical on the glass, so I think you can really come back and help us. Hit on that weak side. Hit on the weak side. Get those big bodies off the glass. All right?
If you're on top of him on that weak side, you just smash down into him. Okay? Just go find his legs. Gabe, you got to slow down on the side out. The elbow, wait for the cut before you face the basket.
Slower. Go slow. Side inbound, side
Now,
Okay.
what I love about that piece, he's telling his players to be more physical, and I'm telling my referees, please watch the physicality of the game, right? So it's give and take on both sides.
I like it. That was Chris Fleming from the Brooklyn Nets, who played overseas, coached in Germany, was the German national team coach. And the other voice, Wes Wilcox mentioned Dan Burke, who is one of the defensive gurus among the assistant coaches in the NBA. So that was a fun time out.
Chris is a good friend. We got to know him really well over the years. Kenny Atkinson was an assistant, and I believe they played together at Richmond. And then Dennis Schroeder, of course, played for the German national team. It's great to see Chris get his NBA shot.
That last basket on the other end by Etienne Ka, who plays in Chalon. One of his teammates, Nate Walters, played for the Milwaukee Bucks and the Utah Jazz, now playing in France. Heading to the line right now, Blaz Mesicek from Slovenia, who plays in the Italian First Division in Brindisi. He averaged 10 points a game this year, shot 42% from the line, and he's a 97, Wes, so he is the equivalent of a college junior. So he's one of those guys that puts his name in, maybe teams take a look at him, and then he can decide with his agent whether to stay in the draft. He's got up to 10 days before the draft.
Yeah, no, it's a great opportunity to get a jump on next year with the upside of maybe making an impression that can turn into a draft pick this year.
Bennett, how much interaction do you have with these guys after the games? Meeting?
We have meetings in the morning before the games, and as we did this morning, we went over the videotape of yesterday's games, and then we will do the same thing tomorrow morning. Videotape is our best friend. It tells us what we do right and what we do wrong. and we can stop, go forward and backwards and all that stuff. And it really is a great training tool.
You know what we like about this camp? No video replay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like the old days, right? You call what you see and you go with it.
We're not calling Secaucus.
Hey, I have to commend you guys on your pronunciation of these names out here.
We work at it.
I tell you, fantastic.
Yeah, that's you know what? If you say the name right, people think you actually know the player. Oh,
That's pretty good.
there's a great example of that play right there. Bennett, that's a play right there where the defender looked like he was vertical and the offensive player jumped up. The average fan is screaming for a foul right there.
I try not to defend our guys because our profession is not defendable. It is what it is. We go out and we do our job and we don't look for comments. But I wish, to some extent, the average fan saw exactly how hard these guys work at their craft and the training that goes into it. There's a lot of things that the average fan cannot see, like what you just pointed out. You're a basketball guy. You understood it. Mm-hmm. The average fan doesn't understand that, and maybe they don't want to understand it.
Depending on what team they're rooting for.
Right.
And on almost every call, right, somebody's upset at you.
Of course.
Right? Like,
Of
or
course.
multiple people have the point of view in the game. And managing that is a great skill with a lot of our great NBA refs.
And that is part of what we do here also. You know, we look at the interactions between the players. There's a firmness that's needed, and then you can have your light moment too to make everyone aware of the fact that you're not a robot. You know, you have some personality to you.
Oh, what a
Ooh, that was Matur Maker, young man from Canada by way of Australia and the South Sudan. And if he reminds you of Thon Maker, who plays for the Milwaukee Bucks, he should. That's his younger brother, who's had a pretty good day and a half here. Good effort, right?
Yeah, no doubt. He's certainly on the draft list for these executives to evaluate.
Terrific pass right there at the end of the break by Kareem Yallo, who plays in Munich.
You know, Bennett, you just mentioned the interaction. Fran and I at dinner last night were talking about the interaction. And as an evaluator, there's really 5 interactions on the court that you get to see a player work through. That's his teammates, the coaches, the fans, the referees, or one of them. And that interaction is evaluated. It's evaluated how he interacts with his teammates, how he interacts with his coaches or the fans or the officials,
Sure.
or the opponents. And that matters in this process. And it's
You know, I'll tell you, if I may have a second, a funny story. My first game in the NBA, there were 28 referees at that time.
Was this 1947?
A little bit before. I think it was in the 30s. It was the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Jersey Nets. And I'm standing at half court watching the players warm up. And all of a sudden, Julius Erving, the Michael Jordan of his era, comes up to me, takes his warm-up jacket off, drapes it around my shoulders, and walks away. It's my first game. And I turned to him, I said, Julius, please, not now. And he turned around, he came back, he put out his hand, he said, Julius Erving, welcome to the NBA. He knew I was the new guy on the block because there were only 28 referees. But to your point about knowing who the refs are, maybe using their names.
no doubt.
Yes.
And we ask our players our refs to do the same thing. Know the coaches' names. Address them by name. Respect all the way around. Goes a long way.
It's the only profession where you're supposed to start out perfect and improve from there. Refereeing. Hey, we want to thank you, Bennett Salvatore, for being our guest. Let's listen in, but thank you for being
It's my
with
pleasure,
us.
guys. Thanks for having me.
great to have you.
Keep trusting it. We have so many roles open. I know the seal. Remember, the first option being is when you roll, the point guard might hit you. Then when the ball's passed, then you can seal. And then on the weak side, if you run horns, just chase it. Big guy, you get out of the way. Okay? So look for the post. If not, play to the weak side. We're going to go horn small to start. Guys, long game left. Got a lot of good looks. All right? You can play a lot better. Play a lot better. Horn small to start. Horn small to start.
Defense.
That was Ben Bavnani with Oklahoma City. Another great story out of the NBA, a young guy that's worked his way into a very impressive young career.
You like that? I love those microphones on the huddles. You get to hear them. And joining us now from the NBA Global Camp, I'm not going to say the Godfather, but certainly, well, maybe I will. The Godfather of this camp in its many iterations, starting out as what was it? Was there something before Reebok Eurocamp? I know Basketball Without Borders was in Treviso in 01.
Big Man Camp was the first event that was actually, organized and took place here in Treviso.
2003.
No, Big Man Camp was before.
Way
was
okay.
20 years ago.
Wow.
20 years ago. Big Man Camp, first edition, had Kiki Van de Weg on the floor demonstrating the big man skills. Zaza Pachulia, first big guy stepping in, and that Big Man Camp kept the following year, and then a Eurocamp concept was added, and then basically 3 years later the Eurocamp started and lasted until last year.
I want to make sure we reintroduce Maurizio Gherardini, who is one of the legends of basketball in Europe, currently the general manager of Fenerbahce in Istanbul in the EuroLeague. They had a great season. He's also been in the NBA as an executive with the Toronto Raptors. And I know you got your start before Treviso, but you were the longtime general manager here at Benetton Treviso.
For 15 years.
And this has always been, to many of us, we call it the Boston Celtics of Europe. The green uniforms, the great tradition. And you brought this innovation here to camp along with Donnie Nelson, Kiki. What's your thought process about how the camp has evolved to now where it's the global camp?
I think it's a natural evolution, and if we think how everything got started and how the business has actually developed and changed. So we had to get to a phase where this international showcase was somehow without ties of any kind and open to everybody, and showing the kids the best possible experience, and the NBA the best possible look to the talent coming up. So I think this idea of having something similar to what the pre-draft combine in Chicago is, and have it for the international player, is an ideal, format, to keep having this sort of international showcase around.
Give us your perspective, Maurizio, of how international basketball over the last, let's go back to the 1992. It was a nice steal and finish right there by Emmanuel Cate from Romania. He plays in the Spanish second division at the moment. But give us your impression of the way the game has shrunk. The basketball globe has shrunk. We all think in the United States of the Dream Team and what it meant to basketball and how it brought the world closer together. But from your perspective on the other side of the Atlantic, and to see what's going on in the NBA now, what are your thoughts about how the game, the global game, has changed so much?
Well, it's changed because that's that's the nature of why, the NBA game, why NBA is so successful, why it's become a global game, because kids around the world are finding models on the floor, everywhere. And, I was in Barcelona in 1992. That was my first job for Benetton, and I was there watching Toni Kukoc, my player, playing the final against the U.S., and that's 26 years ago. But I also was, already in the business when Gluchkov started playing the NBA,
right.
And everybody thought, hey, international players cannot make it to the NBA.
Right.
Now you have over 100 international players, and the international players are an important piece of any NBA team. And but also has become an amazing tool for the NBA to expand, and that's why basketball, and specifically NBA, is the global game today.
Nice drive there by Isuf Sanon from Ukraine with the finish. He's had a good day.
Maurizio, we've talked a lot about evaluating from an NBA perspective. but you as an executive at the highest level in Europe, maybe you can speak to what the international scouts are here doing at this event.
Well, I think you find in the crowd different let's say different reasons to be there. There are agents, of course. There are club executives, and there are media people, and coaches as well, actually. But I think the most interesting part is the club executives. They're here to understand if they can get pieces from these young men performing that they can grow within a project in their team. Of course, you're talking about the pieces that eventually would not become NBA pieces. And there are, I think there have been different examples of guys that came to this event, showcased their qualities, and became part of projects for not necessarily the very top team, but several teams. I mean, you just mentioned the basketball. Yusuf, he plays in Olimpia Ljubljana. And Olimpia Ljubljana just won the Slovenian league. That's from what it looks like. They're just signing up a new deal with this Luka Samanic, that was an important young prospect in Europe. And they develop talent for their own benefit, but also for what the opportunity for them to get to the next level.
One thing I told Wes, what I really enjoyed about being part of this camp for so long, Maurizio, is not just the guys that went to the NBA and have had success, and there are many cases, but some of the guys that came to this camp who didn't play in the NBA are having fabulous careers. And, unfortunately for you and I, they're now getting to the end of their careers. But even the Olympics in 2016, Lithuania, Serbia, Croatia, there were players that are part of this camp. And the talent level in Europe certainly is so good now that has to make you feel good that so many of the players came here to get seen.
Definitely. I mean, they... at the very, very beginning, when we got started with this showcase, all the components of the business were very hesitant at displaying their talent, making connections, developing. They didn't really know what to expect. Also because the game was not followed as you can follow it today. Now, you have your device and you can follow anything live. In the past, it was not like that. So there was also more uncertainty as what to expect. Today, it's a different approach. Everybody knows everything. They want to be here. They want to grow. They want to get their opportunity. One of the best, let's say, kids in camp that actually might never be an NBA guy is a Polish point guard.
We love him.
Ponitka.
Yeah.
To give you an idea of Ponitka, he's not only a great young man, but because of being hungry of basketball, he follows NBA. The reason why I'm telling you this, because we got to know him. And this year, why we got to know him, he asked us, together with their club, to have the preseason preparation with our club to learn from Coach Obradovic.
Wow.
So he was with us for 1 month, and the guy was amazing.
That's
amazing
great.
How he wanted to learn to transfer into his game in his own league. And we gave him that chance. And he's an amazing young kid.
And he's played very well here for 2 days. He's
and
really,
he played very well through the season, very poised, and he looked like he really learned from the experience that he had in preseason.
Trey Bell-Haynes with the ball right now. A young man out of Canada. Nice pass inside. That's Gabriel Galvanini from Brazil, and the finish by Dusan Rizdic, as we mentioned, from Arizona, but he grew up in Belgrade in Serbia. Rizdic with the ball right now.
Brings it up the floor. Nice pass in transition. Oh, nice steal.
That foul by Luis Olinde, who's had a pretty good day and a half. His father played at UCLA on the last team that John Wooden coached that won a NCAA championship, 1975. went to Germany to play professionally for a couple years, but he wound up staying. And now his son is a very solid prospect.
Yes, and we had a chance as Fenerbahce to play against Bamberg this year in EuroLeague, and he played some minutes against us. I mean, not a significant number of minutes, but you can tell that the guy has some qualities and he can develop into a real prospect, at least for European basketball.
Sure.
Yeah. That's Kareem Yallo, who's
Yes.
done a nice job here and is certainly speaking to the scouts in the building, certainly has piqued the interest of the NBA.
He has, and it's interesting, Maurizio, you can comment on this. He plays in Munich in a great program, and so the minutes aren't there, but yet, to Wes's point, still the NBA guys are keeping an eye on him with the idea that he's going to develop down the road, either be a good Euro League player maybe someday, or still get a chance to play in the NBA.
Yes, and pretty much everywhere in Germany, even if you don't get minutes on the major team, they got their way to control a second team in second division, and they get some experience anyway. And he's definitely a very interesting prospect, no doubt.
He just showed you right there.
Yeah.
I think Paul Zipser comes to mind. He didn't have great stats in the German league, and yet, he made the Chicago Bulls.
Well, I think when he came to this showcase, people hardly knew him.
I remember.
He made his name here.
Yes.
Those 3 days.
That's a great point.
Good hands for Yallo again there on the steal. Oh.
Through the years, Maurizio, you've had some great coaches here, both from the NBA and also some great European coaches. And we have coaching the international select team coming up in one of the next games. Sergio Scariolo is no stranger to great basketball in Europe. And you're working with maybe some people think the best coach, one of the best coaches in the world, certainly one of the best coaches ever in Europe, and Coach Obradovic. What is that like?
Well, that's pretty unique. I had a chance to work with him here in Benetton for 2 years. Now it's been, I'm entering my 5th year in Istanbul with him. So, but again, for a basketball passionate fan like I think I am, and enjoying basketball 24/7, I feel very, very lucky because in Benetton I had a chance to work with 4 years with D'Antoni, 3 years with Messina, 2 years with Blatt, 2 years with Obradovic. I mean, my wife is jealous, but I work with all these guys,
Those are 4 great coaches.
It's a pantheon.
Yeah. Yes. In America, we'd say they're on Mount Rushmore.
Yes.
Of the great coaches in Europe, certainly.
Maurizio, we've talked a lot about the impact of the international game on the NBA and watching the NBA Finals, the speed and randomness and the importance of skill. How have you seen the game change or evolve over the years internationally?
Well, I think, I don't know. I mean, Fran is much more of a coach than me. I'm just, I like dialogues, and sharing. But I think somehow the way that you play the game, I mean, on one side of the ocean reflects and influences the other side of the ocean and vice versa. I don't like the simple analysis when you say, okay, NBA is one-on-one, international basketball is 5-man basketball. I think there are, playing today. But Mike D'Antoni started that way of playing basketball here in Benetton for 4 years. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, but we didn't really realize how the game was changing when he was doing that. And I think certain ways of watching the game and studying the game, if you are really, let's say, a student of the game, reflects the changes. For example, Obradovic, friend was just naming, is a unique coach. I don't think, okay, I might be one-sided guy, but I don't think there is a coach like him in the world. Not because he won 9 EuroLeagues, not because he's the most successful, but he's a true student. And believe it or not, he likes to watch NBA games. He takes notes during the game that he watches. He follows all the playoffs. He comes in the morning, and when he meets with the staff, and sometimes also when he meets with me, hey, did you see last night? That play? Did you see that? Did you see that? So that influence, but you would never say Obradovic plays the NBA way. No, I mean, it's a sharing. It's a basketball sharing.
Yes, we've talked about that. Dr. Jack Ramsey and Chuck Daly and U.B. Brown and Lou Carnesecca, they came here 50 years ago. They brought their ideas to Europe, and now we're bringing some of the great coaching ideas from Europe back to college and the NBA.
You were talking about before 1975. 1975, thanks to the opportunity that happened in San Marino with Capicchioni, we organized the first ever coaches clinic, and one of the speakers was Chuck Daly. And people were just, ecstatic, learning and how the game was played. And after him was Rolly Massimino. I mean, you talk about history, coaches that were bringing their knowledge and sharing their knowledge.
It's great. And when I told Wes, when I go back every fall to coaching clinics in America, I say, hey, here's what Serbia ran this summer in the Olympics. Here's what Australia's doing, to kind of communicate those great ideas. So we're going to get ready to start the third quarter. We know you want to watch, so we're going to let you go. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
No, we want to make sure we thank you for what you started years ago. Donnie Nelson, my buddy Pete Philo, Kiki Vanderway, Masai. It's been an amazing journey.
Great. Well, let's keep going on, Let's not stop it.
And let's keep the pasta flowing.
Yeah, always. And wine.
Yes, thank you.
Have you.
Maurizio Gherardini. We're getting ready to start the third quarter. Team one up big, 17 points. Here's Rizdic in the post.
Fran, it's great. It's a great thrill to get to talk to a guy and spend time who, we've all gotten to know over the years, Maurizio. But there's a lot of young executives in the league, guys who are currently in decision-making capacities, and younger guys that look to a guy like Maurizio with just an incredible career, both in the NBA, internationally, and a chance to watch or to listen to him, have him share. It's just invaluable for all of us.
Well, it's basketball success no matter what side of the Atlantic. That last basket at the other end was by that young man who committed the foul, Isuf Sanon, who is one of the top prospects here. He's only 19 years old. He is born in Ukraine, but he plays in Ljubljana in the Slovenian league for Olympia, one of the great programs, great teams in Europe. Haralampopoulos from the corner. I did check with him before the game.
And Fran's favorite name of the
It
camp,
is.
of a lot of good names.
But we could call him V. He told me we could call him V.
V.
Yep. And V right now is hassling Sanon when he gets the steal. Oh, nice finish.
Nice pass.
Yeah, Treybell Haynes with the pass to Matur Maker. Matur is a lot like his brother. The energy. He's had a pretty good couple days here.
It'll be interesting to see what his decision is going into this last few days, because he's been on the radar for quite a while, and he could easily stay in early as an early entry candidate and be drafted in the second round and held, and continue to watch develop. One of the things we haven't talked about is oftentimes, there are players that may not be under contract currently with an international club, but the NBA team may partner with them after selecting in the second round to then place them in a really good developmental environment. That's happening a little bit less these days because of the two-way contracts and
Right.
the NBA G League, but it is a tool that you could see used by a team with an agent to partner with another international team. We did this with Mike Muscala out of Bucknell and Oberdario in the ACB, and it was very beneficial to both clubs.
And somewhat similar, last year the 76ers took Jonah Bolden,
Yes.
who played at Mega B-Max, and had a good summer league, Wes.
Yes.
Played well. I mean, the Philly summer league team was very good out in Vegas, and, you know, I'm sure it was a collaboration between his agent, the club, and Jonah to stay another year with that team because he was developing quite well. And if there's an addition to the Sixer roster outside of somebody named LeBron James, but it could be somebody like Jonah Bolden.
This is the great benefit of working in media. You can say whatever you like.
Exactly.
The
I can
rest of,
speculate.
The rest of those in the NBA, that speculation we get in trouble for.
I know it. I know it. That last basket on the other end was by Dusan Rizdic.
Just looking forward to game 2 tonight.
Ooh.
Oh,
That's pretty good right there. Yeah, we're going to have
it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Or this morning, I guess.
we
Right?
had 2 and 3. This is teams 1 and 4. These are the older players. And stay with us because you're going to see some kids that are going to play in the NBA. It may take 3 or 4 years, but there's some really outstanding young talent.
Against the clock.
Trey Bell Haynes out of Vermont and Canadian. He's from Toronto. He's a kid that he's likely not to be an NBA player, but he could earn a nice contract over here with solid play. He comes out of a team program at Vermont that had a lot of success his 4 years. He was a 4-year starter. By the way, he's the 8th all-time leading scorer in Catamount history. Just wanted to drop that in there.
You continue to amaze.
No, that's just useless information. Conavampopoulos.
Oh, nice rebound.
That's
And the
goaltending.
goaltender.
Yeah.
Nice play there by Dusan.
Yes.
Rizdic. It was fun to have Bennett on, Salvatore, too.
Yeah.
To talk about these young officials who have done a really nice job. It's
Well, you know what? All of them, you know, I've never was really a big fan of officials when I was coaching. And the longer I stay out of coaching, the better they get. But all great guys. They're staying at our hotel. And, I mean, this is their dream, too, to be in the NBA.
yeah.
You know, you said it the other day. Nobody wants to be in the G League,
Yeah.
right? The officials, the players, the coaches. It's a league where if you're lucky, you get a chance to move up.
Yeah, and we say that tongue-in-cheek because
Yeah.
the G League is just a fantastic developmental environment for coaches, trainers, players, officials, executives now.
Right.
Like I look back to the time that we were able to spend in Erie, Pennsylvania, Canton, Ohio. They are great stories, great memories, and great relationships built. You know, we were talking about it with Austin Ainge when he was the head coach in Maine.
Yep.
Just a great laboratory for growth.
You know what I enjoy about the G League, and I have a connection to the G League, obviously, with a son who's coached in the G League, is you mentioned the relationships. Guys go on to different paths in their basketball careers,
Yep.
but they're going to remember the bus trips,
Yep.
the early morning, that's a nice pass, early morning flights out of places like Des Moines and Cleveland. And
Absolutely.
And they're all those, as you mentioned, everybody is trying to get to the NBA, the ultimate goal.
Yeah, no, those times, especially, you know, we've talked a lot about James and his path. You know, we've gotten to know James over the years, and there's no doubt he's going to go on to a really nice NBA career as an assistant coach or player development coach. But that time in the G League, you know, just an opportunity to build relationships. And one of the great things about the league now is just the level of player in that league. Assignments that, you know, 5 years ago, you know, you're an NBA player drafted, you know, there was a stigma to being
Right.
assigned. They didn't want to be assigned. Now players are asking to be assigned.
Get some playing time.
Get some playing time.
Yeah.
Now you have the two-way contracts. So there's added incentive or added interest with the NBA club with roster spot 16 and 17. You got staffs hiring coaches, you know, being connected to your NBA franchise. So there's just so much camaraderie and opportunity to grow and build relationships in that league. It's just a fun, developmental environment.
You get to hone your craft is what you do.
Yeah, you got to make some mistakes without, like, Twitter blowing you up.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. You can leave a guy in and have him pick up 5 fouls in the first half as a coach, and nobody really will notice.
Yeah. It only gets hard for those coaches when you assign, you know, your roster player in the NBA, and you know you got a G League roster to manage, and you got to take minutes away from your G League guy for your NBA signed players, and that's a hard conversation, and it's part of the development. It's part of the growth.
There's a chick. Clock going down. He knocks down the long three.
With the step back.
Yeah, lefty. We mentioned he shot 42% from three in the Italian First Division.
Oh, nice pass.
Yeah, sweet. Terrific pass.
Great vision and delivery by Charles Lampopoulos.
Yep, absolutely. And the great catch by Leon Kratzer, the big German kid. And you mentioned it yesterday. You know, he kind of, Big V, reminds you a little bit of Joe Ingles.
Yep.
You know, not exactly, but certainly the great stroke and the way he moves. And I mentioned this a couple times. Joe did not, like, tear this camp up. He was kind of under the radar when he was here.
I mean, he was like a multi-year summer league guy on different teams and eventually found a home, and now plays a huge role on a very good team. And you could easily see a scenario like that. You know, we go to these, like, what oftentimes are defined herd events where the entire NBA herd of executives or coaches comes to evaluate, be it Portsmouth, Treviso, Chicago. And oftentimes there's like a misevaluation that takes place. But it's so great to see the stories of the players that just keep plugging away, keep trying to get better, like a Joe Ingles that ends up, like, you know, going from undrafted to an important role on a playoff team. And there's no doubt this camp is going to produce another player along those lines, and it's the jobs of the executives to find who that guy's going to be.
Yeah, and it's a worthy journey for these guys who, in some cases, can end up having good European careers, but for most of these kids, the ultimate goal, like the over 100 international players that are in the NBA this year, is to play in the best league in the world.
Did you guys ever make any trades in Treviso?
Oh yeah. If one team was far and away better than the other three, there was a lot of arguing about it.
I'm sure your coach, whoever was coaching.
Oh no, the
right?
battles were real.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mentioned J.B. Bickerstaff and Dennis Lindsay. Billy Bano is an outstanding assistant with the Pacers. You know, Kenny Atkinson was here.
Yeah.
Pete Philo was the commissioner. He was not only the camp director, but the commissioner of the league, and there were some very heated arguments.
Wait a minute. Is the reason you were 3-0, you won it because your relationship with Pete?
That was always.
Are we uncovering?
That was always the speculation on the part of the other coaches. But I had some bad teams too. As we end the third quarter with Team 1 up 53-26, and we're going to listen in to Chris Fleming here from the Brooklyn Nets. Let's listen in.
Good job, fellas.
First five.
Don't let her in.
No, it's their ball. Hey, let's finish like we started. You guys have been doing a great job. They feel us. All right, we're moving the ball offensively. It's fun playing. You got 12 more minutes left of this camp. Okay, we keep playing together, keep competing. You guys look really good today. All right, heads up. Let's enjoy this. All right, here we go.
Let's go together on three. 1, 2, 3.
Together.
That's Chris Fleming, assistant coach of the Brooklyn Nets and longtime international coach and head coach of the German national team.
And joining us right now, former DePaul star. I think I coached against you, David, but no, you came after me when I was an assistant coach. But David Booth, and David, great to have you with us. What is your organization getting out of a camp like this?
Well, it's a good chance to see a bunch of good, young, talented players all at once. You know, we come here every year, and we just like to see the competition, the talent level, and just embrace what Treviso has to offer us.
It's a fun event. Is there a difference in this year's group versus past groups that jumps out at you?
I think every year you see a little more athleticism, you see a little more versatility, you see a little more size and length. I think those traits resonate with the NBA. You know, so every year it's just interesting to see how talented these kids are when they come out.
I should notice, David, but did you play over here during your career?
I played over 50 pounds ago. Actually, I played in Italy for a couple of years. I played in Verona, played in Pavia, some years in France, some years in Greece. So, yeah, I'm very well knowledgeable.
And what's your take of the way the game, like we keep talking about the basketball globe has shrunk around the world, just from the time you played? Just talk about how it's changed. I know it's changed in the league, obviously, with all the international players dotting every roster in the league, but just from your point of view.
I just think it's more parity out there. I mean, you know, the European market is so important to the NBA. Their skill level, their talent, their confidence. There's been so many successful players that come from Europe that have been good bars for these players to try to attain. And it's been good for the league. It's a worldwide league. You know, the NBA is just not in the United States anymore. It's a worldwide league. And it's been great for the whole world basketball thoughts for everybody to just watch and see everybody play.
You know, it's interesting, Wes. There was a time when a guy like David coming out of college would come over to this side of the Atlantic, and the college guys were asked to be the top scorers. And now it's hard to find a college player that can play in the EuroLeague.
Yeah. I mean, the EuroLeague, you know, is arguably the second best league in the world. And these young players, I mean, you're not going to just come in and average 20 points a game. You get very limited playing time coming in as a college player, but it goes to the talent level that's there now in Europe.
And to your point, Fran, more and more you talk to the executives of these international teams, the GMs or the sports directors in charge of, you know, identifying their international players, which is oftentimes American players. And, you know, it's very hard for them to take a chance on a young player out of college. You know, they want to see a player go play in maybe first division Germany, you know, at a smaller club or somewhere in the ACB before they work their way up to a team like Fenerbahce and Mauricio.
Basket by with Kareem Yallo, young German who's had a pretty good couple days. You know what I'm impressed with, and there's a nice hoop by Sanon. But
who's putting together another pretty good game.
He is, and I was just going to mention that guys are getting down and trying to guard.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like Yao just tried to guard Sanon, but I was impressed that these guys are in their stance.
Yeah, I really believe the way the NBA is now, we always talk about two-way players. You know, it's not just about playing one end of the court. I mean, you got to be able to guard on one end. You got to be able to score on the other end. And, you know, I think the European market has really taken that and embrace that role of being two-way players, and that's why you see these kids getting down in defensive stances and being able to shoot the ball and score. I mean, that's the way the NBA is going, and I think the world is taking notice.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but was that just the Bodaroga that we saw from Isuf? And, you know, it's a great play, though. He turns it over in all seriousness and then sprints back and contests. And that's one of those small things that every evaluator loves after a turnover like that.
Yeah. You know, he at times gets out of control, but as a former coach, I never minded a guy who tried to make a play,
Yeah.
but then tried to make it up,
Yeah,
you know, with
yeah,
hustle,
yeah, yeah.
which is what he did. And there's that foul in the open court, the international foul that you mentioned, Wes, has now become part of the NBA.
Oh,
Jeff
yeah.
Van Gundy hates that, right?
Yeah, oh, well, according to the Game 1 broadcast, Jeff Van Gundy
Yeah.
thinks it's the worst rule in the NBA. It's different, though. Thinking about our discussion yesterday, you know, there are fewer penalty situations in the international game, where in the NBA we have a lot of penalty situations. So that play just takes a really high level of awareness if you're going to use it frequently in the NBA, because it clearly can cost you
Yes.
when every point matters.
Yeah, yeah.
So we don't see it quite as much. So Jeff can, or Coach Van Gundy can.
He can, well, he's going to squawk about anything. It doesn't matter.
Right.
What do you think? We're going to see some really talented young players later. What did you think of the young guys?
I think the kids play hard. I mean, that's the one thing that stands out, and the one thing we've talked about amongst each other as scouts. You know, these kids play so hard, and the fundamentals are really, you know, stand out. You know, and that's one thing we've always talked about here in the last couple of days.
Yusuf with another three. That's, what is that, 2 in a row for him?
And Dusan Rizdic with the foul line jump shot. He'll find out that no matter what team he plays for, that shot's not a good shot statistically.
Oh. You know, it's you know, the analytics movement has had a great impact on the game in general, how it's played and how we evaluate. But it's also hard to take a little bit of a step back, because there's coaches on both ends that are trying to take away threes and trying to take away the rim. And so so it's, you know, it's a challenge, but there's a reason. We had
a great discussion at lunchtime. You know, Sharif Abdul-Rahim and I were talking about the idea that if you tell me I'm talking about it, I'm using his voice now. You tell me I can't shoot my patented 17-footer, that sets up my three.
Right.
So if I make a couple of jump shots, and now I go out to the three-point line, they're going to respect the three also, and now I can drive by guys.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes I think analytics could go a little too far. You're going to tell Chris Paul, obviously, not to shoot, to pull up, high paint, jump shot. Come on now.
And I think any coach that sees his players make a basket, he'll be happy with it wherever it is on
exactly.
the floor.
Right.
Yep.
It's a balance.
It's a balance.
Yeah. 5 minutes to go in this game. And Team 1 clearly up big. Coming up, we're going to see some outstanding young players. Yusuf Sanon with 10 points today. And we've talked about that. He's a guy that I think, again, I can say this because executives can't. David can't say this, but I have a feeling from what I've heard that he'll stay in, with the idea that if he gets drafted, the team will know he's not ready, and then it all gets to that process, as you mentioned, with agents and
placing and developing, building a plan for development.
Yeah. He does, reminds me of a kid that, you can see that kid playing in Chicago.
No
you know,
doubt.
with the kind of chip on his shoulder, the game he's got, the offensive flow.
Yeah. It's one thing you notice, a lot of confidence out here. These kids this whole week, they've been playing with confidence, and they're sure of themselves.
Yes. And we saw some 16 and 17-year-olds, and we're going to see them later.
Oh.
Nice move by Rizdic, who certainly exhibit that same kind of confidence.
David, what does the next 20 days or so, 19 maybe, look like for you and your organization as you guys move into the draft?
Well, it's been interesting. You know, they have different player agent workouts that's been going on in LA and Vegas. Teams now are doing draft workouts where they're bringing players in that fit their draft range, where they can, you know, talk to the kids, do some testing with them, see some physical strengths and weaknesses that they may have. And then the draft comes up, you know, the third week of June, and, you know, it's here right before you know it. So all this kind of goes right, you know, into the flow of what we see every year. Then, of course, then we have the summer league, and so it's a good time of year. It's fun. It's fun for us. It's fun for our fans. just to try to better our team and just enhance ourselves for next year.
Alexa Ilic at the line. Young man that played at Budućnost this year, the Adriatic League champion. And we talked about his athleticism yesterday. I thought a couple years ago he would be on a trajectory to being a real prospect, and he still may be. But he's getting a chance. He had 4 points yesterday. Getting a chance to show teams that even though he is a auto eligible, hey, don't forget about me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's especially like when you go to YouTube or you Google his name, he's got some incredible dunks.
It would be ideal for his career if he could show some of those here at camp.
Yeah.
Leonardo Tote tried to get that ball to the rim.
Nice pass.
Yeah.
Tight. Great catch and finish.
Good finish by Emmanuel Kate, the lone Romanian here at camp. He's actually signed by Real Madrid 4 years ago. So obviously there was some promise there, now playing in the second division. And not surprisingly, he plays on the Romanian national team. We are 1:42 away from the end of game 2. As we mentioned, stay with us because we'll have the NBA academies will be playing the Australia Center of Excellence as well as the International Select Team. And August 4th, NBA Africa will take place down in Pretoria, South Africa. It's met with great support over the first couple years, and there'll be some outstanding players. Joel Embiid is scheduled to play. Serge Ibaka.
It was just a fantastic event last year.
Yes.
Really like the crown jewel maybe of the BWB International NBA Global Development. Super exciting to see it here back once again.
Galvanini with the steal. Young man who plays in Brazil, gets a lot of playing time for his team in Bauru.
Fran, did you have some pizza for lunch?
I did. I did. But
Fran's been talking about the pizza.
It's a different type of pizza here. It's a different type.
It's not deep dish.
No, it's not deep.
It's not
not deep dish Chicago. No, it's not.
Not Giordano's.
Yeah,
Chino's, Lou Malnati.
Yeah.
Which is the best?
Yeah. I think Giordano's.
I do.
I'm a Giordano's guy. Yeah, I'm a Giordano's guy.
I'm with you. There's one out by the airport at the, the one by
Midway. By Midway. You can get them frozen and take them home.
Well, I like the one out by the old Allstate Arena.
Oh yeah, by the O'Hare Airport. Yeah.
What the basketball community is learning in this conversation is scouts and coaches
love to eat.
Love to eat. And know where all the spots are.
And you know what we love to do? We love to go somewhere after a game and talk ball.
Right.
And eat pizza or whatever it is.
Right.
It's a celebration or a commiseration.
Yeah.
Right? Like you win, you feel great about it, you celebrate. You lose, you go commiserate, and you talk about all the ways you can get better.
And when you're in TV, you don't even worry about the wins and losses.
Yeah, you guys got it good.
We got it good.
That's great.
Nice putback right there. Jean-Marc Pansa. He is French, 6'10", only 20 years old. Oh, nice little spin and touch right there by Kate.
Oh, good hands.
Yeah, he's been active. Watch out.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. We talked about it yesterday. He is a high-energy guy, kind of a grinder. Gabriel Galvanini.
That's tough to do with the left hand like that.
This game will end, and stay with us because, as we mentioned, you're going to see some outstanding young talent in these final 2 games. Next game coming up, NBA Academy #1 versus Australia's Center of Excellence. And then don't miss the international select team, which just talking to some of the scouts here, might be 4 or 5 guys that you see in the league in just a few short years. 3 French kids, Wes, all in that 6'5" range, all 17 years old, that look like they're going to be the nucleus of a good French national team program someday. We don't want to get David in trouble commenting on anybody.
My lips are sealed.
That'll do it. Team 1.
David, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
David Booth, thank you.
Thank you.
Great
Enjoyed
to
it.
see you.
Great to see you too.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
We're going to take a little break. We'll be back. Coming up next, NBA Academy #1 versus Australia's Center of Excellence here from Treviso, Italy.